So we're going to go into this. It's going to take 10 or 15 minutes. I want you to know that as we start this is all Kyle's fault. Because Kyle sends me messages. He never sends me stuff that, it's usually like technical stuff about the site or about this.
He's an instigator.
He's an instigator. He's the Bob Uecker in this situation. So about a week or two ago, I guess it was, a week maybe, Dave Weigel, when the whole Seth Rich thing fell apart, as if it was ever, put together. But Dave Weigel wrote a piece on tracking the traveling of the Seth Rich conspiracy and everybody who got sucked up into it, right? I mean, it has almost destroyed Sean Hannity's career at Fox. Certainly not on the right. Maybe. It almost did. But certainly not good for him. And it sucked up other people as well. Because on the right, you don't end up paying much of a price for this stuff at all. Sean Hannity may end up leaving Fox because of it, but there was other reasons. He may not. But wherever he goes, he's going to be heralded for this because they buy into this stuff. And here's the thing. They are willing to lie. And they are sloppy. And they don't get challenged on it. On the left, we have some of these problems, but generally people get called out. So Dave Weigel wrote a piece which basically just sort of tracked who was covering it and how they were pushing the ball forward and how it became spread like wildfire. And this is very important to do because this is basically what made Fox a lot less powerful in the media ecosystem. Because it became clear once it was outlined how stuff went from the fever swamps and then was whitewashed into and laundered basically through Fox, and then it made it to Drudge, and then all of a sudden it's on ABC. This type of stuff became clear. So this is important stuff. Weigel's a very good reporter. I mean, if you ever read his stuff on elections or stuff like that, he goes to the place. He's a real reporter. In other words, what we do here is we talk about other people's reporting. We do analysis and we do interviews too. But he's a real reporter who works at it tirelessly. And he started covering a lot of conservatives. So he still has a very good understanding of that ecosystem and has some relationships there. So Kyle sends me a video, and he's like, you've got to watch the first 2 minutes of it because it's completely nuts. And I was like, but I did, and this is what I saw.
So we covered when he first made the allegations that he knew about emails from Seth Rich. We covered that, and then we covered when he recanted. That's what you're supposed to do.
And our timeline was totally on board, too. There was no overlap either. It was like Monday, Tuesday.
Bam,
our
bam.
timeline was
we covered it, bam, bam. The next day he recanted, we covered it. But listen to me. So he puts me in the middle of, so he's named.
So this is obviously Jimmy Dore complaining that he was showing up in this Dave Weigel piece. Because Jimmy Dore is the only person ostensibly on the left who dedicated 1/4 of their output on that day or 1/2 of their output or whatever it was on their show to this story, which was breaking on Fox News. And Jimmy Dore put out a video that got over 100,000 views on it. And so he's included in this. But Jimmy Dore doesn't like that.
All these other outlets that are really, beyond the pale
go
outlets
back,
that he's
pull it
smearing
back a
me
little
with.
bit here. This is pretty
covered
funny.
it. But listen to me. So he puts me in the middle of, so he's naming all these other outlets that are really, beyond the pale outlets that he's smearing me with, right? Trying to say, look, Jimmy Dore's in with these alt-right crazies. And then he puts me in there with my video, and he says, Jimmy, before Wheeler recanted his story, the Young Turks Network's Jimmy Dore Show chewed over the revelation that Rich was in contact with WikiLeaks. Chewed over. So that's mealy mouth, so I can't sue him. But what he's doing is he's putting me in the middle of that fucking article about fake news and Seth Rich and pretending that I was misreporting it. That's what that is. I can't sue him because he says chewed over. And that's a mealy-mouthed word that a guy without any character, ethics, or standards would use to smear me, which he did. And by the way, it's okay because this only elevates me. I still get angry about it, but I remind myself it's ultimately good for me, and that's why I'm able to be happy now, even if I could be angry at another time.
So I guess the problem is that he chewed over it as opposed to it. Jimmy Dore made a 25-minute video. And if you Google Jimmy Dore, Seth Rich, that's the first thing that comes up. A video that still sits up there with 105,000. So he supposedly corrected it by doing another video the next day when the story fell apart so much that even Sean Hannity had to slightly backtrack as well. But the video's still up there. And he doesn't appreciate the chewed over. Should we look into the video a little bit to see what does chewed over mean? What is it called when you talk about something for 25 minutes? Are you chewing over it or are you just sort of licking it? You're digesting it? He can't sue him for what? What would Dave Weigel write that Jimmy Dore could sue him for? He did a video on it. He licked it. He smelt it. He smelt it for 25 minutes. He smelt around it. So here is the first minute and a half or so of Jimmy not chewing over it in his original story on May 17th.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm here with the miserable liberal Steph Sam and Ron Placone.
Hello.
And break it. Hey, what? We got a little. We got an alert. We got a news alert. So just I'm going to show you the. Here it comes. The news alert's coming, but I'm going to tell you about it first. So people have been trying to figure out where WikiLeaks got the John Podesta emails. Now everybody in the Democratic Party and the mainstream press says that Russia hacked them. And there's been no proof, zero. And not only do they say Russia hacked him, but Trump is in collusion with Russia hacking our election. They never say how, they just say that. So, last summer, there was a staffer.
Now, what does that look? There's a staffer. Just raise the eyebrow. That's weird. All right, go ahead.
There was a staffer for the DNC shot and killed. 4 o'clock in the morning. They said it was robbery, but he didn't take his watch, didn't take his wallet, didn't take his money, didn't take his cell phone. So it wasn't a robbery.
Oh,
4 in the morning.
Pause it. It wasn't a robbery. It wasn't a robbery. It wasn't even a failed robbery. That's interesting. I wonder where that came from. But go ahead.
4 in the morning. So here's what Fox. So
pause it. Yeah, because nobody gets mugged in Washington, D.C. at 4 in the morning. Right? That doesn't happen. Go ahead.
So here's what Fox. So people are saying, and then by the way, Julian Assange said that guy was shot. He put out a reward.
20 grand.
20 grand. He wouldn't say he was working for WikiLeaks, and that's where WikiLeaks got the emails from. He wouldn't say it, but he intimated it, right? And then they put out so here's the Fox News. This is what everybody's talking about, the Fox News report.
Pause it. You should know everybody wasn't talking about it. Everybody who watches Fox was and takes them seriously, but not everybody was talking about it. So Jimmy complains. Do we have the video now where he's talking about how he put No, you didn't pull that part? Okay. So to be fair to Jimmy here, now he's mad at Dave Weigel because 18 minutes in on the video, and if you go, why don't you go to the video and just click on it. 18 minutes onto the video, he says something that means that he's not buying into this. It's a 25-minute video, and on their pinned comment, which you have to scroll down the whole thing, most people don't necessarily look at the comments on a video, particularly one that gets 105,000 views. But scroll down, and then it says, read me what that says there. It says, next live Jimmy Dore Show, May 22nd, Burbank, California. Tickets here. And for those of you who comment before watching the video, there's just an 1818. So let's click on that. Because now hold on, pause it for a second. Because they apparently, after they put the video up, realized that people are like, hey man, this is just total conspiracy bullcrap. And so they went in afterwards and said, whoa, you got to wait a second. We have a caveat 18 minutes into our 25-minute video.
It certainly is interesting to me. I would, I reserve judgment on everything until we see evidence. It would be nice to see evidence.
18 minutes in, he says he's going to reserve judgment until we see evidence. Well, I got news for you. It's a judgment as to whether or not you're going to do even 18 minutes of a video on this. But here's my favorite part on this. Here is where Jimmy says, and this is where we're getting to the point of why I'm doing this. Because Jimmy really is saying that Weigel's this sort of hack who doesn't have ethics, who doesn't report well, he doesn't check his facts. He says things like chewing so that you can't get sued, as opposed to doing a video of, or talking about, or raising an eyebrow or whatever. So here is through that halfway through that video, here's where he talks about how much credibility Rod Wheeler must have since he's not anonymous.
I do believe that the answers to who murdered Seth Rich sits on his computer on a shelf at the D.C. police or FBI headquarters. And then he goes on and says this, someone with the D.C. government, DNC, or Clinton team is blocking the murder investigation from going forward.
All right, pause it. So she's reading from a quote from this guy, Rod Wheeler, the Fox News contributor, former cop who apparently was the private investigator who was digging this stuff up. And here's Jimmy Dore's response to that assertion by this guy, Rod Wheeler.
End quote.
Seems like it.
It
seems like it. It seems like that guy is telling the truth.
That's chewy.
So he's not an unnamed investigator. He's a named guy. We know who he is. We put his face on the thing. Okay.
Now, the point of Jimmy ostensibly saying that he's a named guy, right? We know him. He's not an anonymous source. Is because you can look him up and test his credibility. Here's what happens if you put Rod Wheeler in. Number 2, November 14th, 2007. One's his Twitter handle. Do you know who Rod Wheeler is? Well, I didn't this week. Fox News invited the former homicide. So he gets on there, and if you look at, if you click through that one, knows the difference between Hispanics and whatever, you see Rod Wheeler on there talking about, like, he wasn't Chinese and he's doing this with his fingers, pulling his eyes across, and saying Hispanic is a legitimate description of a perpetrator, even though the person on with him was saying, look, well, but that doesn't tell you anything because you can be white and Hispanic, or you can be you can be brown and be Hispanic. It doesn't tell you what that person looks like at all. And then if you go back a little further, before the Seth Rich stuff, you start to go down and you start to see rioters in Missouri are the same people who voted for Obama. That's a weird thing to say. And then if you go down to the bottom, like the 5th one down, Living Out Loud with Darian. Glad goes after O'Reilly. And if you read in there, Glad has supplied the contact information of Rod Wheeler. I wonder what that's about. Why would Glad be upset about Rod Wheeler way back in 2007? Oh, maybe it had to do with this performance he had on Bill O'Reilly's thing. Incidentally, I want you to know that we spent about 4.5 minutes, Matt and I, putting this whole piece together. Never mind 4.5 minutes just relying on the source that I'm going to use to base a 25-minute video on, claiming that Hillary Clinton and the DNC is trying to stop the D.C. police from finding out who killed this DNC staffer because it could have something to do with the John Podesta emails. And this is what we found. Here's Rod Wheeler back in 2007 on with Bill O'Reilly.
Thought it was. I never thought of this. It makes sense that if you had lawless gay people, they would do this kind of thing. But you don't associate it. You associate homosexuality more with a social movement, not a criminal movement. But you're saying that this is all over the country, Detective?
It's all over the country, and it's mainly in your larger cities. I mean, you go from New York to California to wherever you want to name, you can see these organizations. Now, the other thing, too, that our viewers are going to find very, very interesting is the fact that they actually carry, some of these groups carry pink pistols. They call themselves the Pink Pistol Packing Group. And these are lesbians that actually carry pink pistols. That's 9mm Glocks. They use these, they commit crimes, and they cause a lot of hurt to a lot of people.
All right, Detective, thanks very much.
Thank you, Detective. It turns out this guy was conflating his lesbian gangs that are roaming across the country with a group of LGBT people who are trying to protect Second Amendment rights. We're all going to die. And so, and remember now, how dare Dave Weigel say that he just chewed on this stuff? Dave Weigel is a bad reporter. Lastly, this exchange, this is Matt's favorite exchange in the Jimmy Dore thing, because this is where the whole theory falls apart, right? We're led to believe that Seth Rich smuggled out the John Podesta emails because he knew this would destroy. He would blow the lid off of what was going on with Hillary Clinton, so that he could crash her campaign. That's why he was murdered after the fact by some cabal, and the D.C. police are trying to cover it up at the behest of the DNC, the Clintons, or I don't know. Seems right, is what he said, right? Well, here's the thing that makes no sense about they don't even stop to contemplate this. But go ahead, play this.
And I just read that it was mentioned, I don't know if you said this already, but Seth Rich had been notified that he was going to finally get his dream job and work with the Clinton campaign. He had found that out shortly before his death.
Wow. So the speculation is that he was the connection with WikiLeaks. That's where they got the John Podesta emails. That's the speculation. That's why he was killed.
Well, first of all, it's his dream job, but yet he goes out of his way to send stuff to WikiLeaks just to make sure that dream job can never actually even exist. That's the way. Anyway, the other thing is this. That's the speculation. Speculation does not grow on trees. It doesn't float in the air like orbs. No, people speculate, or they chew on things. The speculation is not just out there. The speculation is just being pushed by a bunch of right-wing nut jobs, and maybe not just right-wing nut jobs. Maybe just nut jobs. So this stuff doesn't grow on trees, folks. People perpetrate it. They put up and they get, and yes, it's good for him. He gets to get rid up by Weigel. It increases his name recognition. Gets those 100,000 clicks. Still won't take the video down because there's still some clicks to be made there.
Well, and the stuff at 18 minutes, 18 seconds. My wife
right.
loves to
That's-
offer people jobs before she ices them. That's how she operates. She likes to say, hey, look at you. You're going to realize your dreams. You're going to do exactly what you want to do with your life. Oh, wait a second. You're getting murdered.
There you have it. We're going to take a quick break. Thank you for indulging me on that. Hey, Sam Seder here. Folks, you probably heard about the whole YouTube advertiser apocalypse. Well, we're suffering from it too. We need your help. If you want to keep this show alive, you want us to be able to still put out clips on a regular basis, head over to our Patreon page. Here's the link right here or down below there. And just give us a couple bucks a month and support this program. Really appreciate it.